To this now, the African National Congress is to honor the lives and legacies of three distinguished patriots: Todd Tozama Matshikiza, his wife Esme Sheila Matshikiza, and John Pogišo Maroo through a reburial and funeral service. This is happening now in Johannesburg. Mavuso Msimang, veteran, now on the podium. Let's listen in.
Haley Buckley, who remarked that since we're talking about this man of music, that when Purcell and Mozart both died in their 30s, music was impoverished by their deaths. He also noted that poetry suffered a decline after the deaths of Keats and Shelley in their 20s. But he also observed that there is no guarantee that these literary giants would have continued to produce masterpieces if they had lived longer. He cites Wordsworth, whose early genius withered, and he started spending his time imitating himself. Sibelius, well, in that world right now of classics, by contrast, having run out of ideas in middle age, had the integrity to opt for silence. So we must beware of the Greeks, even when they come bearing wisdom. If John Milton, who said, Lycidas died, he says, a famous quote now, Lycidas is dead. Dead before his prime. It suggests that if he had been asked to comment on Todd, he would have said, Todd is dead in his prime. Long live the difference between before and in this instance. All I want to say, all that is really important and well covered both in the obituary, was that in the short life that Todd had, he was phenomenal in producing. He had produced an accomplished, he had become an accomplished pianist. He was a composer. He was a journalist, an academic, and an author. So packed in the 46 years that he lived, he managed to do all of those things. We want also to pay tribute to him for Hamba Kahle, which has been described here. That's now a standard for choral groups who do music in South Africa to this day. Drum magazine, it's important for us to know, especially people who are younger, that the political wars are not always fought in the front lines of politics, wearing gold, green, and black. That's good enough. But it's different strokes for different folks. And Todd's strokes were played in this sphere of literary sphere. Drum magazine prospered at time during the 50s. The 50s, which saw the Defiance campaign, which was led by Mandela in 1952, which saw the Freedom Charter, which was drafted in 1955, which saw also the Women's March on the Union buildings the following year, 1956. In 1957, you had the treason trial, which lasted 4 years with the acquittal of everybody, and not least, of course, there was the massacre in Sharpeville. Drum magazine itself was banned. Somebody characterized it as an antithesis of journalism at the time, because they were quite outspoken on issues social. And that's where Todd made his contribution. I would like to thank the government too, and everybody who contributed to this wonderful ceremony. When we confine Todd's remains to Mother Earth in South Africa, we ought to know and acknowledge him for having helped to contributed to the career of the greats that we have in South Africa. Hugh Masekela, Kipi Mweketsi, many others with whom he worked. In tribute to him, I ask us to pause a moment and say farewell, Todd, and well done. I hope my summary and Miriam's summary saves us, Chair, the need to even read the obituary, which would take the whole day if we were to read it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ntate Msimang. Ergo fe gadget ya gago. Thank you for the message. We will now ask the last speaker from the family to come and speak. And that's okay. So it's no longer on the last speaker from the Matshikiza family.
Thank you so much, Program Director, Master of Ceremonies. I'm sure people may wonder, excuse me, if I am Mrs. Tembe Gamgutwa. I stand here representing her. She turned 86 recently, and she's one of the still living and doing so well in health of our elders. She asked me to represent her. When I tried to actually refuse, she said to me, "That's your grandfather. Number two, you've taken after him in many things. You are in the media, you are a pastor, you are a military veteran as well." I stand here today in this august and auspicious and dignified gathering, humbled and honored and privileged to represent the Matshikiza family. My name is Simpiwe Gwana Matshikiza. I come from a lineage which, if I were to go through it, we would take the whole day. What I would rather do is to acknowledge the families and representatives that are seated in this room. I will just read the houses from the family tree. The house of Samuel and Mkhwebi, and house of Grace and Mamungoi, which gave birth to Mikli, Grace Kelly, Winifred, Temba, and Todd. And then the house of Mikli, who married Hilda Mtombeni Matuma. I will also acknowledge the house of Grace, who married Mr. Panyana. the house of Winifred, who married Temba Lumko, the house of Nomonde, who married Welengesi Tabane, the house of Zola, who married Kuku Keu, and the house of Notini, who married Matota Njonga, and the house of Tabo, who married Maramei, the house of Temba, who married Norusapo Nomwa, and the house of Todd, who had his kids as Linda Roundy, Helen Nombini, and also Marianne, who was our first speaker, and John, who many people know him as an actor, and the grandchildren Vuyo, Maya, Lindiwe, and Sabi. I'll just stop there. I hope we have covered all the families that are represented today. Njovu, Mtungwa, Ndlovu zidle ekhaya ngokuswela umalusi, Ngobo, Gengesi, Mlundu, Nzipho ezimnyama ngokuqhwayana, omazalelwe ebhedini okwabelungu. Todd is a descendant of Matshikiza, the seer, or you may call him the prophet, because it was believed that he had an ability to foretell the future. Let me briefly take you back to Todd Tozama's background. The Matshikiza family has its roots in a place called Tofimvaba in the former Transkei. Matshikiza had 3 sons, Ngapai, Zagate, and Nguma. As it was custom at the time, Nguma, who was the youngest, left his father's homestead to seek his fortune in the world. In his travels, he found himself in Queenstown, Kukomani, in these days. It is a bustling colonial town which was 200 kilometers away from his home. It is at Queenstown's Hexagon Square where merchants and farmers from the surrounding villages and smaller towns came to ply their trade that he first encountered the Moravian missionaries. Who are the Moravian missionaries? They are the oldest Protestant denomination, predating the Lutheran religion by 100 years. They were followers of Jan Hus, a Bohemian heretic who met a fiery demise at the stake in 1415 for speaking against the practices and doctrines of the Catholic Church. After facing near extinction during the religious wars in Europe, the religion found renewal from German aristocratic benefactor who allowed the Bohemian exiles to build the town Herhart on his lands in 1457. In the early 1700s, the Moravian Church became the first Protestant group to send the missionaries to various parts of the world. The first Moravian missionaries came to South Africa in 1737, working their way up from the Western Cape to the Eastern Cape. Maybe you're wondering, why are we talking about Moravian? You will see now. It is at the Hexagon Square that Nguma's life collided with religion in 1882. Hence, this family is religious and spiritual. From all accounts, he was a smart young man who started doing missionary work in Shiloh in the Whittlesea district area. And there, he gained 2 things. Number 1, proficiency in German language. And his German wife, Louisa Paul, who was a missionary daughter. She was given as a gift for embracing the missionaries, and this became some beginning of international relations at that place. It is for that reason that you see a lot of Matshikiza looking lighter like we are, because of the German blood that you see in us. I also want to believe that this was now a defiance of non-approval of international, or rather interracial marriages. Because she was married to Xhosa people, she was given a name called Tigizwa. This name carries a lovely connotation of someone who has been beautifully created. Then Ndlovu, because of the clan and the tradition, gave her that name. I cannot recall if Lobola was paid. They settled in Jamala, Eeu, in a village few kilometers from Whittlesea, and started a family. They were blessed with 8 children. Catherine Maambethala, Solomon Matshikiza, Samuel Matshikiza, Ellen Mbebe, Elizabeth Ndangisa, Jacobeth Makunga, Priscilla Mchalala, and Philip Matshikiza. Let's go to Samuel and see where Todd comes in. Samuel, the 3rd eldest child, later became a court interpreter and proved to be a gifted organist at the Anglican Church in Queenstown, Kukomani. He later married Miss Mkhwebi from the Khadebe clan, and they had two children, Gordon and Laugazi. After her untimely death, Samuel remarried Grace Ngoi from the Matiba clan. They were blessed with 5 children. Meekly, my granddad, Grace Gailey, Advent, Winifred May, Temba, and then Todd. Samuel decided to leave the village and go to settle in Queenstown, Kukomani. The Queenstown of that era was a hub of musical talent and subversive political discourse, each residing comfortably next to each other. It was in this backdrop of rich cultural dynamic and trials and tribulations of a political system relentlessly chipped away at any progress of the black man that Samuel became the first African to hold a title deed for a house with an orchard right in the town of Queenstown, which was actually unheard at the time. This was the house in 8 Scanlon Street, which became a microcosm of the talent that Queenstown had to offer. Meekly was a talented pianist, and his son, Pat Matshikiza, of popular song known as Shona, became one of the South Africa's renowned jazz pianists. Todd became an English teacher at Lovedale College, a prolific author with his popular books, including the one mentioned, Chocolates for My Wife. A composer of internationally acclaimed song King Kong, as mentioned. And subversive scribe of thought-provoking articles for Drum magazine. His son John followed in his footsteps as an author, a poet, a journalist, an actor, and a director. Many people know him from the movies like There's a Zulu on My Stoop with Leon Schuster many years later. Todd, thank you for passing your gifts and your blessings to our family. I stand here proud to be born in this lineage, and I'm reminded of my eldest sister Nobinza, who was also his student at Lovedale College, reminiscing about adventures to and from the college each time. You have outdone yourself. You continue to immensely contribute to the freedom of this beautiful country, South Africa. Thank you. Thank you, Ndlovu, for the life well lived. You have fought a good fight, worthy and noble fight, and finished the race. You have remained faithful until you laid your life in exile. We, the Ndlovu Matshikiza family, the descendants of Nguma, are excited and blessed to have your bones laid at last in your country and in the land of your forefathers. Lala ngoxolo, robala ka khotso Ndlovu, Mtungwa, Ngobo, Ndlovu zidle khaya ngokuswela malusi, Mlundu, Gengezi, Malunga, Nzipheza imnyama ngokuqhwayana, ozalelwe ebhedini ngokwabelungu, lala ngoxolo.
Thank you very much. We'll ask the sound manager.
There you have it. So this morning marks a deeply significant moment in South Africa's journey of remembrance and restoration as tributes continue to pour in there at the reburial of the three distinguished patriots, which we told that this is the reburial of Todd Matshikiza, John Maroo, as well as Esme Sheila Matshikiza. And this is after decades in exile, far from the land that they loved and fought for. Their remains are finally being laid to rest on home soil and in the embrace of the country whose freedom they so dearly fought for. And as you heard there, we heard that, today is not just a solemn affair to say goodbye, but these distinguished patriots, but also a moment to say what exile once denied them, and that is welcome home. Also, just in the broader sense, a moment to reflect and acknowledge not only their pain, but their contribution to music, to culture, to journalism, and the broader movement that paved the way for the democracy that all of us live in, is what we've been hearing throughout the course of the morning. And as you might be aware, that all of these distinguished patriots hold titles there, where Todd Matshikiza was not only a gifted composer and journalist, he was a cultural revolutionary. Esme Sheila Matshikiza was described as a devoted partner, shared that journey, her life interwoven with the hopes and hardships of exile. And we also heard about John Maroo there, who was a compatriot whose activism and service reflected the unwavering resolve of those who refused to bow before tyranny. And those are all the proceedings coming out of that ceremony that is currently underway. We park it there, but continue to keep an eye on it for you.